Your Excellency, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the run-up to the 2023 presidential elections, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, we want to thank you sincerely for making out time in your busy schedule to have this discussion with us.
Thank you, Excellency. Thank you so much. And I will just go straight to your campaigns. I'm sure that you've been able to go around some states in Nigeria. And we'd just like to first of all ask you what it has been, your journey so far.
Well, so far it's been quite an experience. It's been quite strenuous. Even though I have been used to campaigning for several years now, or decades, every campaign has, or is rather unique. You know, I started, campaigning for the presidency since the SDP days. Then we were traveling by road. I traveled by road to all the local governments in this country in those days. Not many of the states had airports. So most of the states didn't have airports, and we were traveling by road with the late Sheikh Musa Yaradua because I was coordinating the campaigns for him. The 2 times he ran as a presidential candidate in SDP, I was coordinating all the campaigns. So that gave me the first experience, of campaigning throughout this country. And then, of course, subsequent ones. So campaigns can be very strenuous, can also be very expensive as well. And increasingly, they are becoming more and more expensive and more extensive, in the sense that now, we travel mostly by air. You sometimes come down, from an aircraft and then drive again to your location and then drive back and so on and so forth. And in between, you now have also meetings. You are told, there are meetings with party stakeholders. You are told meeting with business community and so on and so forth, women, youth. So it's quite a very, very, extensive undertaking.
Interesting to know, because the perception that one gets is that that's the campaign venues themselves. How do you deal with that crowd? I mean, are you not scared about your security?
Of course, there could be security challenges, and but then, we have both, state security apparatus and also party security apparatus. So there is layers of security, you can say, covering our campaigns. Let me give you an example. The last campaign we had in Jos, just a few days ago, before we went, we had intelligence report that violence was going to be unleashed. We immediately alerted, the security, agencies, and they mounted checks before, getting into the arena. And believe me, they recovered about 6 rifles and also a lot of other, swords, arms, and which were being smuggled into the arena so that, they could cause havoc. So we managed to control it. So there are many layers of security, that are deployed in campaigns. Again, depending on the candidate, because most of the layers may not necessarily be provided by the state. Sometimes you also have to, as a candidate, have your own independent layers of security.
Your Excellency, we also like to find out what's your perception. Are the people receiving you? How do you see the crowd, and how do you see the acceptability?
Well, for me, it excites me, and again, I always say, I pray I don't disappoint these people if they give me the opportunity to do this thing. That's all the time. When I see, too many people, I always pray to God in my heart. I said, "Oh God, I hope I don't disappoint these people." This has always been. Sometimes, I feel like shedding tears. How, how would you feel if you get to where you are or you want to get, and then you don't, the expectations of people, below what you could offer. It's a very moving, atmosphere when you see too many people wanting to see you, wanting to touch you. You could see in their faces, they are not a crowd that, have been bought to come. They came on their own violations, traveling long distances and so on and so forth. And they are just happy and excited, just to see you.
When you told that line, it seems to suggest to a lot of people who are listening to you right now that that could dovetail into your major mantra, which is seeing yourself as the unifier for Nigeria. How do you intend to go about unifying our country?
Well, how I intend to go unifying this country, first of all, I promise Nigerians that if I'm elected, I will form a national government. This, if you recall, we did when we came in 1999. Why? Because we also found Nigeria very divided between North and South. And we sat down and said, look, the best thing, even though we have won comfortably as PDP, there will be need to bring in the other parties. And we brought them in. The moment we brought them in, there was peace, there was tranquility. Unless you have peace and tranquility, you cannot even govern well. So that's why, because we have a similar situation today as was obtained in 1998-99. We have a divided country, very emotional divide. That's why I said, if I'm elected, I will form a national government. I will bring in other members of the other political parties into the government and form a national government. This will immediately unify the country, bring the country together. And then, of course, I said, I am not going to favor any geopolitical zone. Every geopolitical zone will have its own fair share of federal appointments. That, again, is another method of unifying the country. It is only when you unify the country you will get some tranquility, peace, and then you can begin to govern. Unless you do that, I don't see how you are going to govern a country that is so divided today.
That regional selectivity that you see, is that what exists today?
Well, unfortunately, the current government has governed in such a way that, our fault lines have become too evident. Otherwise, how do you explain, some Nigerians saying, oh, the next president must be a Southerner? Now we have two political parties. PDP, that governed this country from 1999 to 2015, had more presidents coming from the South. 14 out of the 16 years were governed by Southerners. So PDP has a different trajectory. APC has a different trajectory. But some Nigerians have refused to see that. They only see, that a northerner is now the president. Therefore, the next president must be a southerner, which is not fair because the two parties are different, completely different.
Now, with this your narrative now, a few days ago you went to the southeast, Anambra, Imo, and what would you say about them accepting you, except with the fears of insecurity and the people there saying it is their turn to get the presidency?
Well, I think getting the presidency in Nigeria is not turn by turn. It's a democratic process, and a democratic process that also involves negotiations. I said it in the southeast. I said, look, you don't get the presidency by protesting. You get the presidency by negotiating, by sitting down with other parts of the country to negotiate. We crafted this constitution, and we crafted it in such a way that no part of this country can be a president on its own. You must reach out to the other side.
What is your perception of the restructuring debate?
Since last election season, I have always, advocated for restructuring because I believe is one way that we can also either stem or reduce, the agitations. Because if you give states and local government more powers and more resources, then you would have met them maybe halfway, as far as the agitations are concerned. And honestly, as a Democrat, I feel that the federal government has too much responsibility. I would rather see a smaller federal government, leaving most of the powers and resources to the states. And the federal government should just be responsible for just a few ministries, finance, central bank, foreign affairs, defense, institutions or ministries that relate, with other foreign countries. So I would prefer to see a lean federal government, leaving the rest, most of the powers and resources to the states and local governments. This is my wish, and I wish, if I have the opportunity and the support of the National Assembly, we could sit down and see how much power should we give to the states and the local governments.
We're talking about the National Assembly and they talk about restructuring. There are those who believe that the 1999 Constitution has a question mark. Do you believe that there is a problem with our 1999 Constitution?
Well, of course, we framed the Constitution 1999 based on the military guidelines. And military, is a more centralized institution, and they always want to see everything centralized. When the Constitutional Assembly was constituted, there were what the military used to call no-go areas. You don't go for this, for that, and so on and so forth. So we were guided by the no-go areas, and we crafted the Constitution. We were eager to get them out of power, and so we adopted the Constitution. And the Constitution has been amended, from time to time since 1999. The only thing that has not been done is what I call a fundamental restructuring of the country. In other words, giving more, powers and resources to the states. When I was growing up, I did not even know about the northern Nigerian government, because everything was being provided by my local government. Free education, free housing, free this, free that, and even free pocket money, and so on and so forth. Not until I went to the university that I knew, oh, there was a northern Nigerian government, because they said I was on scholarship. And then, of course, I was getting free tuition, I was getting allowances, and so on and so forth. That was when I now realized there was a regional government. But all along, it was my native authority or local government that was responsible for everything. And of course, the money was not coming from oil. The money was coming from taxation. In the days I was growing up, there is, of course, poll tax, there was kettle tax, there was bicycle tax, there was stall tax. If you are in the market, you have a stall. You have radio tax, they go into your house. If there is a radio, there is a plastic license like this. If they don't find it, you are fined.
Taxation. Is that a viable template for you today?
Well, it may not be the same, but then the tax net has to be expanded if we want our economy really to grow.
So if you talk about expanding the tax net, but you should also consider that overtaxation can also be a challenge.
It's not over. I'm not talking about overtaxation.
Yeah.
No, I'm not even talking. I'm talking about, expanding the tax base. There are just too many people who don't pay tax in this country.
Yeah.
But then taxation is at various levels. You have taxation at the federal level, you have taxation at the state level, and also at the local government level. If you go to the United States, you may see about 3, 4, or 5 even levels of taxation. You may see, if you stay in a hotel, if you see your bill, you may see about 3 different taxation. There is federal tax, there is state tax, there is borough or county tax, like that.
I'll just reserve the best for last and come back to that same issue maybe as we progress. But let me get your views about security. What would you do considering the myriads of security challenges we face in Nigeria today? What is your ultimate plan for security?
My ultimate plan for security is, number one, our security architecture is undermanned and underfunded and under-equipped, which means you must employ more at the very minimum, to meet, international standards. If you employ more, you must train more, you must equip more, and you must fund more. So, basic. Today, if you put all our security agencies, the armed forces, the police, together, you put them all, you find that they are still under 1 million. For a country of 230 million people. If you go to United Nations recommendations to secure a country, you find that we are not secured because we are undermanned and then underfunded them and undertrained. I was trained first of all as a police officer. Sometimes when we get to the proud, I call my security, I say, look, this is what you should do, this is what you should do, this is what you should do. So that you can provide a corridor for me and protect me. They are supposed to be trained police officers, but they are not well trained.
Is that the bane?
You see them fighting among themselves.
But would you say that is the bane of the level, or the escalation, should I say, the escalation of insecurity when it comes to the issues, sub-issues, if you will, of, say, banditry? Is it because we are under-policed, as you said?
Of course we are under-policed. It's obvious that we are under-policed.
So you go in, get more guys in the police force, and that will solve the issue of banditry?
Not solve completely, but it will be one of the ways to solve it. of course, you must also make sure that there is employment. How do you generate employment? All these young men who are in crime is because they don't have jobs to do. Believe me, sometimes you need to follow me on these campaigns and see how young men have turned themselves into because of lack of jobs. And then sometimes, some of the policies may be wrong. I give you an example. I'm just coming from Katsina. Katsina and a number of northern states are bordering other neighboring countries. We on the, the eastern side of Nigeria, we are bordering the Cameroon. And from Cameroon, they are also bordering Chad. From Chad, they border Niger. And on the west, they border Benin Republic. Now, there is what we call legitimate border trade. Legitimate border trade, or trade of foodstuffs, of merchandise. These are what we call legitimate border trades between communities across the border. And most of the young men who have capital of 3 million, 4 million, 5 million, who are doing businesses, also employing younger ones under them, have been rendered completely out of business in the last 7 or so years since borders were closed for no just reason. If you want to control smuggling, it is not by only closing border, but by making sure that the customs do their work. But these guys, these young men who have been deprived of their businesses, now resorted to crime and started forming gangs who are now terrorizing, ordinary folks, along the borderlines, the areas.
So, Your Excellency, we know that it's a challenge because our borders are porous. But you also told us that you received some trainings of these. And when you become the president of Nigeria, what would you do to train them, their welfare and other issues?
I mean, it's a question of making you give necessary directives to either the government agencies that are responsible for recruitment and training to make sure that the right recruitment takes place and also the right training takes place and equipment and so on and so forth. I just can't imagine seeing how some of these guys live. For instance, I have lived in Lagos for several years. If you are crossing the flyover from Victoria Island into Ikoyi, but you are right, as you descend, there is police barracks. Do you notice how that police barracks is? Do you think no human beings should live there? No light, no water, no renovation. Ever since. They are living under horrible conditions. How can you get the best out of them when they don't even live as decent human beings?
So which of this will be your first priority? Would this be part of it?
I mean, of course, there has to be a complete, reorganization, retraining, of course, staff welfare, and of course, a number of things have to be done in this country.
Let's look at the economy, Your Excellency. You know, you hear divergent narratives about what the Nigerian economy is, how battered it has become. Some people believe that, some believe otherwise. You know, but you have been privileged to be at the highest offices in our country, as vice president, as a matter of fact. Now, from back then to the present time, when you look at the Nigerian economy, what would you say is the real problem we face?
I think it is a complete change of philosophy. We came in and said our economy will be driven by the private sector. We empowered the private sector. We were dialoguing with the private sector. And the economy grew. We had the highest rate of economic growth during our time. And since then, the growth has been falling. On a monthly basis, we used to meet with various sectors of the private sector drivers. This month, we may meet with the manufacturers. Another month, we may meet, with industrialists. Another month, we may meet with farmers. So every month, we were meeting with various sectors of the economy to hear from them, what could we do to help you? What are your problems? What are your challenges? We were there. This government has never invited any sector of the economy for any dialogue, for any interactive session.
But they do have a think tank.
I think the think tank is just a group of people that you believe, have the requisite educational qualification and the requisite experience.
Is that not enough?
It's not enough.
What will you do differently?
It's not enough. Because that's not the only hallmark of leadership. I've just told you about dialogue. If you don't dialogue with people, how do you know their problems?
So, Your Excellency, I think you, being the head of the economic team as a vice president before now, you talked about going into privatization, and I've also listened to you and read your...
It's not question of going into, but continuing with the policy. Because this government has not really pursued the privatization policy to its logical conclusion.
But people will ask, was your own time a success?
Of course. Go and look at the records and the analysis. About 70% of enterprises we privatized were a success. Only about 30% was not a success.
Yes, Your Excellency, there are those who think that as at that time, when you headed the privatization team, you gave some of the companies, your federal government organization, to your cronies.
Proof. I have called for proof. I have asked Nigerians, bring me the evidence. Nobody has brought any evidence. If you say, I have sold them to my friends, bring evidence.
Your Excellency, what's your plan to revamp manufacturing?
I am also a manufacturer.
Okay.
Some of my, manufacturing companies sometimes can be closed for about 3 months before I get even foreign exchange to import raw materials. This is simply because we have multiple exchange rates, and therefore foreign exchange is not available to most people, most manufacturers.
As a president now that you are vying for, We are looking at an economy where people are seeing that Nigeria's economy is going down instead of going up. You've also attested to that. And you're also going to inherit an economy where the budget that you will be working with, the 50% of that budget is based on borrowing. What do you intend to do immediately you get to office if you win after February?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that there has to be a rationalization, of expenditure. We cannot continue, to be spending money, like that. There has to be, a number of economic measures that will control, overspending our budget and making sure that there is cost control, and also reducing in some cases where it is necessary. We did that when we first came. And of course, where we have debts, we have to renegotiate with our debtors.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to renegotiate. We can't afford to pay. Let us sit down and find a way of how we can restructure the debts. Most, international institutions and countries will accept that.
During the process of negotiation, how do you bridge the gap? Because definitely when you wait for the negotiation table.
When we get there, you will see we'll cross the bridge.
So you don't want to tell us what you do.
Your Excellency, when you talked about the parallel market of the exchange rates in Nigeria and how it has hampered your business, sometimes you have to stay for 3 months before you get foreign exchange for transactions. What exactly will you do about the parallel market in Nigeria?
That's why I said I would rather see a dual exchange rate, not a multiple exchange rate. A dual exchange rate, will be a much better way to make sure that, first of all, we have the correct, value of our currency as per, the dollar. This is one. Two, it will also afford, the users of foreign exchange a more flexible way, of getting foreign exchange, either as industrialists or as manufacturers, as the case may be, or students or parents who may want to pay school fees for their children and so on and so forth.
So, but if you're talking about the foreign policies and the strengthening of the Nigerian naira, you still need to look at the relationship.
Of course, by the time you ask the central bank, this is what you will see. It's not that you are going to manage the central bank. This is my policy as a government. I want to see a dual exchange rate. And you leave the central bank to do its work.
Okay.
And then you see how it will emerge.
Your Excellency, what kind of education are you proposing to Nigerians?
Education is an evolving, subject or issue. We are budgeting far less than what, the World Bank and the United Nations proposes, we spend as far as education is concerned. So first of all, you have to lift up, your budgetary allocations for education. And then, of course, secondly, you have to now review the kind or the type of education that is given to our children. Is that the right type of education for the current, world? So after reviewing it, then you must make sure that they get the right kind of education. So that, I mean, you are not just producing, job seekers, but you are also producing job creators.
So you support free education for all?
I don't have any objection to free education if we can afford it. Of course, we have already made a law making it compulsory for every Nigerian child to be educated from primary up to secondary school level. And that's why we have UBE. We created UBE, and we also impose education tax on certain, categories of Nigerians.
So what do you intend to do about the large percentage of out-of-school children?
We definitely have to upgrade our intake to make sure we build more schools, more classrooms, but then, mostly it's the responsibility of the states and local governments.
Well, we are saying that, yes, you have said it's responsibility of the state and local government. We have seen schools being built. We saw the former administration on the Almajiri school and all that. And today, they are not working.
Of course, they are not working because you have a different government that does not believe in it.
So which project are you going to, which of the policies will you bring up on board when you become president?
Of course, when you become president, yes, you have to also ensure that you give more money to the states and local governments, and you also supervise to make sure that that money is really invested in education. They provide the schools, they provide the teachers. Yes, that's the only way you can do it.
I know you being the president, monitoring will be, just like you said, you will call on people who are working with you to also tell them, what are you doing about? Monitoring is very important if you want to take these children out of the streets.
No, of course. I mean, it's part of governance.
Your Excellency, let's talk about the political space, and as we build up to 2023, the elections, which is very key. There has been this controversy about the beavers machine by INEC and purported, narratives about the ruling party trying to subvert the effective use of the beavers. What do you make of that statement when you hear such?
I think it is too late for anybody to say we should not use beavers, because we have seen what the use of beavers have resulted. More free and credible elections in Anambra, in Ekiti, and Oshun. So as far as I'm concerned, I very much support INEC for introducing beavers and any other technology that may be used to make sure that we block all loopholes as far as manipulating or rigging of elections is concerned.
What does your government, when you get into power in 2023, what should the youth be looking forward to?
They should be looking forward to a more youth-friendly government, because I have made it very, very clear. If you attend these rallies that we attend, you will find that 90% of people who come to listen to us are youth.
All right, Your Excellency, I think for now, maybe this is where we just say thank you for granting us this opportunity to talk with you. When we come, we'll still come with you and also ask you more questions before the election. Thank you so much.
You are welcome.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.